guys, welcome to episode 3 of the MVC Youth Podcast. And we have our first guest, Mark Elbourne. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Bit sore, but good to be here.
Oh, what'd you do?
Something silly. Run 12 kilometers today.
Yeah.
Preparation for a half marathon.
Damn.
With a few friends, so you should join me, Paul.
Oh,
Yeah, Paul,
I
you
saw
should
your
join
Instagram. And I'm like, I see you get up at like, what time did you wake
It's
up
actually
this
not
morning?
that early. It's about, I get up at 8:30, start running by 9. Glenelg to Seacliff and back.
It's so far.
That's very far.
You know what? You know what my excuse is though? I'm like, when I was like a 12-year-old, because I have that spine problem.
Yeah.
They told me running probably isn't the best for you because like the pressure. I'm like, so ever since then, I'm like, I don't need to run. That's fine. So we brought you on today to talk about house church because that's been on a few people's minds, including yours, of course.
Yeah.
You've started one down south, which is where we are. So I think we'll start off with getting to know a little bit more about you. So who is Mark Elbourne?
Who is Mark Elbourne? I've heard this guy who was asked, who are you? And he started off with a really good way, and I'm going to steal it from him. So first and foremost, who am I? I'm a child of God, and I'm 26. I'm married to Michaela Elbourne. Obviously live down here in Adelaide. Was born in Fiji. I'm a high school teacher, PE and outdoor ed. Just love sport and love eating. So.
Awesome. Like most of us.
Yeah.
Love our food.
Go
For it.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay.
I'm rushing through it.
So, I guess what do you do? Like, what are some of your hobbies, as well as what are some things that you like to do in church?
In church. In church, love to get involved with young people, youth ministry, just having a lot of fun, and I guess opening the eyes of the young people that God isn't just someone looking down at you and judging you every time, but he's a fun and awesome God. But other than that, a lot of singing, a lot of playing music. It's really enjoyable as well.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. What else do you do inside of church? How do you get involved with everything Morphettvale?
Inside of church. So I've been, a praise leader, worship leader as well. Been heavily involved in the youth ministry, particularly with the social committee with Ted. Also Sabbath school. We also started when I first came to Morphettvale, 5 years ago, going on to 6 years. There wasn't really a place for young adults, and there was lacking in the church. So Pastor Travis Manor said, "Hey, can you start up a Sabbath school for young adults?" And I said, "Yeah, why not? I can just invite all my friends." So that's what we did, and this is where we are now. Recharge started as a group of 4 to 6. Sometimes we'd only have 3 of us sitting in there in the hall, but now, it's rare to get below 10, even 15 in this room. So it's pretty cool to see how far Recharge has come, and the youth ministry and the young adults, growing in Morphettvale.
Yeah, I remember those days actually where it got like 3 less than 5, like just 2 and a bit years ago.
Yeah,
only. It's grown heaps.
Yeah, dire straits back then. Now it's thriving pretty good. So today, as we already mentioned, we are talking about house church. And so what is your definition of house church?
A definition of house church. Ooh. So I see house church as a place where people gather in someone's house, obviously. And where we gather, we eat together, we share together, we laugh, we cry, we pray for each other, and we basically keep each other accountable, all in the presence of God in the house, and and learning and growing closer to God in the house environment, I guess. So,
that's sick.
Awesome.
So when you have house church, what normally goes on there? So
Yeah.
when you meet up, what
Yeah.
happens?
Yeah. So basically, we meet at 6:30 on Friday nights. So if anyone wants to come over, I won't put my address online, but message me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But yeah, anyone's welcome. 6:30 at my house, and basically we start off with a meal, a dinner meal, and you. So far, we've only had 4 house churches, so don't think I'm like a really big professional in house church. I'm still learning so much, and we're figuring it out as we go. But what we've decided is, everyone eats. You eat 3 times a day, sometimes more, if you're me. So we said, hey, why don't we eat together every time we do church together? So 6:30 we have a meal, and it changes week to week on what cuisine it is. So far we've had a haystack house church, a barbecue house church. A couple of weeks ago we had an Indian cuisine house church. That was probably my favorite, just seeing all these different types of curry, and I was full by the end of the night, but then I still wanted to eat because I hadn't tasted a certain curry. And the weekend that just went, we had a burgers cuisine dinner, so everyone brought parts of burger, and we built it together. So we eat from 6:30 to about 8, and then we have a bit of a spiritual time where we either, if we haven't so far, if it naturally doesn't move into that time, we say, hey, how has our week gone, or have you had any God moments in your week? A time to where we can just open, be personal with each other, and break that barrier. We also then have a short talk, something along the lines that we're going through in our house church at the moment. We don't have a plan we're doing at the moment. We're just jumping around from topic to topic until we build our family, our house church that we're reaching out to, and then know, hey, I think we should do this because it's relevant to us. And then we finish the night off with a big prayer, whether it's in our little groups or partners or as a whole house church. And then about this time it's about 9:30, and people just want to hang out still and do life together. And that's basically what our house church is. Just making sure we're being with each other. We're actually personally getting to know each other deeper, and also at the same time getting to know God deeper, but together. But that's house church at the moment on a Friday night. There's a lot more plans to add in. I've been talking to the guys from Church in the Hills and from other people interstate who have their own house church, and they've got so many cool things that they're doing. During the week, we actually have a Bible plan that we follow with each other, and we comment and try and keep each other accountable there. But I think one thing I want to share with you guys with Church in the Hills is, man, they do this awesome thing, which I'm going to steal most definitely, is that they have their house church on Friday night, but then on a Saturday morning, and I don't know if they do this during the week, but I think it'd be cool as well, they actually meet on Skype at about 8:30 in the morning, and you don't even have to be dressed up, you can be in bed, and they have a big prayer session and a small little passage Bible study. Nothing too big, but it's such a cool way to start your morning together as a family, because that's what house church is. It's basically a family together, and you're journeying together, really tight-knit rather than just once a week.
No, that's awesome. No, I really like how you made the mention of it's a very intimate group.
Yeah.
I think because I think that's what can be lacking in when you meet at church on a Saturday, because it's just so many people. So when you're in a room full of maybe 10, 12, 15 people, it's a lot easier for you to open up. It's a lot easier for you to be real. So I think that's very awesome. And I thought it was cool that you eat, because it also backs up from the book. Can't remember who it's written by at the moment.
Peter Roenfeld?
Yeah, Peter Roenfeld, if you can eat, you can make disciples. So it's really cool that you're taking these ideas from stuff that actually works. So that's really awesome to hear. You made a mention about, meeting up in the week. And so do you think that church is only defined by worshipping and being with like-minded people on the Sabbath?
Definitely not. I think worship, you don't worship only once a week. You worship your whole life. You worship through your life. So yeah, that's a pretty easy question, I think.
Yeah. Something came to mind when you were discussing all the big plans you have. Obviously it's an awesome outreach tool. But what do you want to see happen in the next however long? Obviously it's probably going to run for a long time, but what would you personally like to see happen? Like, I know obviously, like, if someone starts something like this, they want to they want to save more lives and things like that, but what is something specifically you actually want to see happen? Is it growth? Is it people becoming more connected, or all the above, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, for sure. So our house church, our vision is actually making disciples. Often some churches can get quite complacent and just make disciples. But I think the structure of house church and how house church works, it actually makes you step out of that comfort zone and say, no, you're a disciple, but you need to make making disciples. And house church really encourages that, because you're inviting people that aren't necessarily connected to a church. And that's the beauty of house church. It's so, I guess, welcoming and not threatening. Not that churches are full of mean people. It's, I don't know, something about our culture is that, hey, mate, do you want to come to church? And they're like, what? Nah. Nah, so I'm busy. But really, they're not busy. They just don't, they're like, it freaks them out. And it's weird. And for us to grow up in the church, it's not weird, because we do it. We've done it all our lives. But for a lot of people, especially in the Australian culture, and they don't grow up with this, and it's something completely foreign. And that's why I love house church so much, because, hey, do you want to come over to my house to eat dinner? We do house church together. So that's a lot more welcoming and saying, hey, okay, all right. So it's not a scary big building with a big cross on it and painted windows. It's something a bit more welcoming and personal as well. And everyone eats, right? So you can't say no to food, especially if they love burgers or Indian or whatnot. In 2 weeks' time, we are having, what's our cuisine? It's Mexican. Oh. So, everyone loves Mexican. Vegetarians, gluten-free, vegans, whatever you are.
For sure. You mentioned a bit of the differences behind church and house church. Do you want to dive into that a bit more deeper? Why do you think people I guess hesitate at the idea of church? Is it the building, or is it like the fact that there's so many people, or what do you think are the main differences as well between church and house church that makes house church more appealing?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of reasons. I don't know them all, because I've kind of grown up with church in a way, but maybe I think it's not personal for them, unless they've actually got a friend connected and that church is quite open and inviting. I think what that, in movies and things, when a church is on, it's just like a really, not saying this is a bad thing, but a really, really conservative church, and they're all standing, you need to be quiet, and it's that typical church kind of scene in a movie. And I think that's probably what they imagine. Whereas just come to my house, have a feed, it's a chat, we hang out, it's a bunch of my Christian mates, and we pray for each other, we learn a bit about God. So I think that's why it's more welcoming. But maybe they don't come to church. Maybe it's just not too personal, because if you don't know anyone, why would you want to go? Unless people are actually searching and saying, oh man, they're searching for God and they need to go and find out more about it. So I've heard a lot of stories about that, like when they just wake up and they drive past the church and they're like, I think I need to turn in,
Wow.
Those kind of stories.
Yeah.
But I think it's the personal thing. And that's why I love house church, because it's very personal and intentional.
Yeah, for sure.
We were reading, we weren't reading it together, but I know that we were both reading the book Mission Shift by Cale Dewar.
Yeah.
And in the book, he talks about the organic wing and the organized wing. And so the organic wing is, house church is very, like there's no real genuine structure. It's, you know, people coming together, connecting and growing together. Whereas church, the organized wing, is a lot more like the church that we attend on a Sabbath morning. So do you reckon just the way, I guess, the mission of the church, or not necessarily the mission, but I guess what the church is kind of doing at the moment, do you think they lean heavily more on on the organic or the organized?
Yeah, I think it probably depends what church. There's a few churches that are doing amazing stuff. And then some churches, yeah, they're doing great stuff, but are they reaching out and doing the mission like you suggested? I would say, I don't know every church in Australia, but probably from my experience from visiting churches and being a part of churches, you know, since I've been 17, 18, I would say most of them have been really, organized, structurally focused rather than organic. There's a few churches that have had a lot of organic events running here and there, but you know, when you think church, a lot of it is the program. The program on the Friday night or the program on the Sabbath morning. You know, when you think church, you think, how was church? Yeah, the music was good, and the sermon was amazing. You know, that's the two things I think you think about. You don't think about, oh, how was church? Yeah, it was awesome. I got to meet this person. They've only just come to the church and they told me their story. It was amazing. You don't really, I guess, switch to that kind of area of your brain when you're asked, how was church? I think if you've got more organic, focused churches, you're gonna be thinking more, how was church? And they're saying, yeah, man, this I met this person. It was really amazing. Non-Christian, they're searching, or just more personal kind of things related to church, rather than the music was not that good, and or the sermon was flipping awesome. Like, you should do this or read this.
Going off of that, I've noticed, or not noticed, but I mean, there's always this idea that when you come to church, a lot of people are more consuming rather than participating. And I think that's also where definitely house church and I guess organized church do differ, is that house church is definitely has a lot more involvement, because I think partly because it is, there's not that many people, so everyone needs to help, which is good. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but also I think house church is also a place for people. It's an intentional place to volunteer, and it's an intentional place to participate. Whereas it's so easy to, like what you were saying, so easy to just sit in the pews and listen to the music and enjoy the music and listen to the sermon and like get something from it. I think there is quite a contrast between house church and organized church in that respect.
Definitely.
What is it called? Total member involvement, TMI. So house church, you can't hide.
That's it.
And we encourage that to be open, because we're a family. You can't hide things. Like, let's go through this together. Like, I think a real good example is like getting into running at the moment. I hate running. The furthest I've ever run is 5Ks. All my life, and then 2 weeks ago, James and I hit 6Ks. I'm like, yes, this is a PB. That was Seacliff to Glen Elgin. He's like, we're doing Glen Elg to Seacliff and back. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's 12Ks. I'm like, that's crazy. And I think the reason is because I'm running with someone. I'm running with James, and he's keeping me accountable. Whereas every time I run before, go for a quick 3-5K jog, my mental mind is so weak. When I run, I'm just like, I'm done. I'll just get to this post and stop now. Let's walk home. That's why I've only run 3 to 5Ks tops when I go for a run. And that's once in a blue moon. But now I can say, yes, I've done 12Ks, and that's awesome. In a couple of months' time, I'll say I've done a half a marathon. But it's all because I've got someone there with me, rather than doing it by myself. Whereas sometimes, you can come to our church any church that has a lot of people, amazing music, a pastor, but you can still feel lonely. However, house church, it's harder to do that. I reckon you can still feel lonely, but it's harder to, I guess, slip through the gaps in a house church because there's only, max maybe 15 people. It's a predominant size of 6 to 10.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I actually came to your house church last time.
Yeah.
And there was someone invited someone, I won't call them that or anything, but they actually were quite shy. And it's funny because you mentioned that you can't hide in it. It's true because it's such a small group. But I think everyone talked to them and made them feel a lot more comfortable over the time we were there. Yeah. And so I think that's sort of, to see that, it's really, it's exciting because they'll probably come back.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That's the awesome thing about it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Now, house church is an interesting topic because there's been some backlash and opposition.
Yeah.
Have you, maybe before you started or since you've started, have you had any opposition or people talking to you about it, disagreeing with you, or?
Yeah, I think, anything new, anything that I guess hasn't been done before, there's always, especially in your context, in your area, in your environment, there's always going to be a bit of, what the heck are they doing? Like, why are they doing that? That's so silly. Like, what's wrong with what we're doing now? I have had a few comments and conversations here and there, but then I've also had a lot of positive affirmation from people saying, man, this is amazing. Like, you're on the right track, and that's been really, helpful and helped me through the journey. It's actually something I've thought about for a long time. It kind of started at college. If any of you guys have been to Avondale College, it's literally Seventh-day Adventist Central. And that's where I came and thought, I'm like, man, what is actually the purpose of church? Is it just to come here and sing these songs and listen to like this super, super awesome preacher? And that's what church was for me. It was just coming, consuming, like you said, Ted. And then, in Avondale, you're in a bubble, huge bubble. It's rare to find a non-Adventist or non-Christian in the area. So I thought, hey man, when I move to wherever I get a job, I want to get out of the bubble. So I came to Adelaide, and then it was a lot easier for me to get out of that bubble because I knew no one. I had no prior connection, so it was a lot easier for me to get to know other people. Joined a rugby club and got to know more locals, and that was a cool community to be a part of, and who I'm still a part of, the Brighton boys at Brighton Rugby Club. So that was real cool. And sorry, where was I going? I lost my train of thought. Say the question again? Oh my goodness.
I think you might have gone on a tangent, which is fine. But my original question was, what have you had any backlash or opposition from house
You were
church?
talking about like how there's the bubble and how you've broken out of that bubble.
Okay, that's right. Breaking out of that bubble and getting to know other people, and I guess focusing on the mission. And that's when I started thinking, man, there's more to church than just this Saturday thing. And then I met an awesome guy. Yeah, this is what I'm getting to. I met this awesome guy, a huge guy called Roland. And then when I moved to Adelaide, he's actually a pastor here in Adelaide. But then he planted a church, and he planted a church that was in his house. So this is my first ever, time I've ever met someone doing house church. I'm like, this is actually really cool. And what they were doing throughout the week, on the weekends with their house church, it was just so intentional, aiming at the Para Hills community up there. It was amazing. I was, man, I wish I could be a part of that or do something like that. And he's really inspired me and all that. And through the years, I always tell Roland, man, I love what you guys do. I wish I lived closer because I'd come and be a part of it. I'd say that every time I see him, but then he's like, yeah, just start your own. I'm like, I don't know. And then finally, look at this, 5 years later, I think he's played a big part of this. I've just like, let's start it. Let's do it, because I was at a part of my life where I was getting a bit complacent. Like a lot of good things were going on, but with my spiritual journey, it wasn't intentional, and it wasn't reaching out as much as I think God wanted me to reach out. And doing this, I think there's a pretty good balance with the organized and the organic focus for church, so house church. But yeah, like in saying that, we meet once a month with more of our church, so that's where we get a bit of a taste of the organized wing.
Yeah.
And that's good, just to make that connection with people coming from house church and saying, hey, we're actually part of a bigger thing than this. You know, we're a part of a bigger church, and more of ours come experience this service. And usually we celebrate at the service once a month, you know, big potluck after the service, and usually people get baptized, and there's like awesome events or babies dedicated, and yeah, just some special things, and it's coming together and saying, yeah, this is our family, like really partying hard, because that's what church is, coming to the end of the week and praising God and celebrating together.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Was Roland your main inspiration behind starting it, or was there anyone else that was pretty impactful on that?
Yeah, definitely Roland and Jane. Them two as a power couple. Travis, you two, been a big and great mentor for me the past years. And then also once I got to know about this house church, I've really read a lot of things on from Craig Rochelle and Life Church, Elevation Church with Stephen Furtick, and Francis Chan. So they've got their own ways of doing it, but they actually incorporate a bit of this house church stuff into their own churches as well, especially with media. Like Elevation Church, they've got their services, and sometimes I'm awake at a crazy hour, Sunday midnight, I'm just doing random stuff, and then YouTube pops up and it's like, Elevation Church is on now. Yeah. And then they're talking in their church service, but they're actually talking like intentionally to people in their houses and saying, there's a house church in this city, Oklahoma, or wherever in America. Give a shout out to them, and there's a big group of them, and they got a camera flashing back to their house, and there's a group of them in their house. I'm like, that is awesome. Like, you don't actually have to be in that big building to do church, but there's a catch. You should be with someone else. It doesn't matter where you are. You need to be with other people. That's what church is. You can't do church alone. Yeah. Francis Chan says you can't do. He does it real ruthlessly. In one of his sermons, he goes, "You can't say I'm a gang. Oh, who's in your gang? Oh, just me." Like, no, you're not a gang, okay? It's because gangs and churches, they have a lot in common. Believe it or not, you can't say I'm a church. No, you're not. You're by yourself. You got to do church with other people. You got to be a gang with other people. So yeah, it's a good way of putting what is church. It's with other people.
Yeah, awesome.
Going back to your kind of metaphor about being in that bubble at Avondale, I think that's something that I've also experienced growing up as well. Like, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist school, primary school and high school, and so I was I wouldn't say I was sheltered from the outer world, but I was definitely surrounded by like-minded people.
Yeah.
And it's not a trap per se, like to be stuck in that, to be in that like kind of culture, but it's very easy to get complacent as to what you were saying, because like growing up, I didn't quite realize that, that there is a bigger mission, or I didn't fully understand that there was a bigger mission to be done. Like I just kind of went to church, did my thing, waited for Sabbath to finish so I could play video games. That's pretty much what my life was like growing up. But
most of us.
Yeah.
Same here.
But when you, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah. So I think where I stepped out of that bubble was definitely through hockey, and it made me experience a whole other world.
Yeah.
And it made it, looking back on it now, it really made me realize that there is a much bigger mission than just attending church, consuming church.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool how, like, when you step out of that bubble, you see the reality. And then that's where a lot of people are like, I need to make a difference. And I think it's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Just a quick question. don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any, I guess, people that haven't been to church before attend any of your house churches so far?
I think so. Not fully aware of their history, but so we've had bad experiences as well. First ever house church. As house church leaders, there's a group of 6. I think it started with a group of 6 or 7 of us. We said, we're going to invite this person, that person, this person. I know them for this, and I think they'll come. They love what was our first cuisine? Barbecue. They love to have barbecue, hang out, and we can talk. About some spiritual things as well. It doesn't have to be super deep, and we don't really want to make them feel uncomfortable, but still show them, hey, there's a purpose to this. But basically, after that meeting, that week came and Friday night hit, and we're like, yeah, I think they're coming. I asked, 4 or 5 people, and they all said, oh no, sorry, busy, for whatever reason. It might have been, they were actually busy, or the word house church actually kind of scared them. But it was a wake up call for us. No one came out of the 6 or 7 leaders, times that by 3 to 4 people we all invited, because we knew there'd be always people saying no. So what, quick maths, 6 times, 4, 24, 24 people, none of them came, like those invitations. So that was a real wake up call. But we talked a lot about that night, and said, how we're going to be intentional and approachable. And the next couple of weeks, we've had 1 to 2 people that haven't been connected to a church before. But I don't know the history of church exactly, because they're not my friends that came. One of them is, and they've had some sort of history, but they're not really, I guess, believers in a way. So and it's not us trying to shove this down their throat, but showing them, hey, this is our church community, and be a part of it. You don't have to believe in God; you can still be a part of it.
I've always found that, in personal experiences, I found that showing the love of Jesus is like one of the best forms of ministry. Just being inviting and loving and caring is really awesome.
That's when people ask questions as well.
That's
when
it.
You get that opportunity. Quite often, some of us throughout our lives go like, well, we can't invite people because we don't know anyone else, or it's kind of running dry with the outreach. But I think if you're just kind and friendly and all that stuff, I think you will get people that come to you and ask, why are you different?
That's it.
It's awesome.
That's where we want to get to.
So since we talked about earlier how church can be a bit hard to invite people to, do you think because of that we need to not restructure church, but work on the church image maybe to get people coming? Or should we focus more on things like house church because it has been so successful and less confronting for people? What are your thoughts on that, with the differences and how easy it is to invite people to house church? What do we need to do about the organized church? Do we need to do anything? What do you think?
Don't get me wrong, I think the organised church is great as well. There's some organised church that are doing amazing outreach, and their total member involvement is amazing. And people are getting a lot out of it. There's new people coming into the church, but I think definitely you need to be a lot more intentional. And I think what you guys are doing, I guess I want to affirm of what you guys are doing. This is amazing. Not many people have, come into this area of media, and with the church, it's adapting. And it's never happened because we haven't had technology, and the culture hasn't been there for putting things on YouTube or podcasts or Instagram or wherever. But now you guys have said, hey, let's adapt to culture and let's do YouTube or whatever, you got whatever sites you guys are on. And I think that's what the church needs to do as well. They need to adapt to culture and make church relevant to, I guess, for us, the Aussies, the people in Adelaide, Southern Adelaide. We can't sell them something that's from the 1800s that worked really well to people who are in Morfett Vale in 2019. I don't think they're going to be, they're not going to be very interested. But yeah, other than that, it's also the personal connection as well. So really adapt to culture, and figure out who's the community, who are the people around your church, and figure that out. So, yeah.
That reminded me of something that I heard on the Story Church project last week, where they were saying, stop using the King James and New King James in your sermons. Because it's so
controversial.
Out of date. It really is, but he was just like, stop.
Wow.
He was all for it. He was like,
True.
Stop, because it's not, it's like exactly what you just said, it's not adapted to
I guess for the normal Aussie, I agree with that. Like for the normal Aussie, if you thou shalt and all that stuff, they're like, what the heck? Because you're speaking another language, really.
Yeah.
And when we come to church, let's be honest, we speak another language here. Normal people wouldn't, happy Sabbath. What? Happy what? It's not my birthday. Things like offerings and tithes and all these other, these words that we use are normal for us. We've grown up with it. But for someone else just walking into a Seventh-day Adventist church for the first time, they're just going to be like, their mind will be overloaded. And
for sure.
It's a bit crazy. So I think we need to make it more comfortable for them and more appealing, I guess. It's not saying that God isn't appealing, but you need to show them that God isn't just this in this box. God is actually so much more than just this box.
Yeah. He can relate to you, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Awesome.
That made me think. It's funny because I'm about to bring up a podcast, and that podcast, what I'm about to refer to, that podcast was bringing up another podcast. So it's like third-hand referencing. But the Burn the Haystack podcast, they were talking about, similar to what you were saying, like, I can't remember the podcast that they were talking about, but in this third podcast, they discussed that Seventh-day Adventism was like a colonial movement. And so, it was working for them in when it first started, but when the 1900s came around, I think I already mentioned this in a previous podcast. I can't remember though.
Maybe.
But yeah, so they when this new 1900s came in, cinema started being a thing, dancing started being a thing, music started being a thing, and they didn't quite know how to adapt to this new world. And I guess that's a balance that, as a church, we need to find, what is good and what is not good. But yeah, it's being relevant and relatable to the world around us. Yeah. And that's also a part of breaking that bubble as well, I think.
And that, all that stuff was like of the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
No way. What? You did that? And now it's like, we go to movies on Saturday night. It's like, and then, one time as a church social, dare I say, we went to the movies together. On a Saturday night, it was to watch, what's that?
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But then again, that was pretty gruesome and full on. True. That was all, but awesome movie. So was it really evil? It's taken time to adapt, but we got there, and I think that's what we need to do as a church. And you guys are doing an awesome job doing this stuff. It's great.
Yeah,
thanks.
We were discussing that we wanted it to adapt to the world of this world of the internet, because there's not much in regards to Seventh-day Adventism in the world of cyberspace.
Yeah.
There is Living Ministries Media, which is good, and there's Faith FM, but that's radio. I just think, and there's 3ABN, Three Angels Broadcasting Network. But I just don't think there's enough.
Yeah, for sure.
In regards to Seventh-day Adventism representation on the internet, and that is something that I think as a duo want to break down that stereotype that we're just super conservative and we only really care about ourselves. We're not care about like reaching out.
Yeah.
And like that's what you're doing as well. Like you're trying to break down that stereotype. Like, hey, Jesus loves me, and he also loves you.
Yeah.
And so I want to show you that love. And yeah, I think that's just really awesome what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks.
And just on top of that as well, like not only to, I guess, not saturate the internet, but get more knowledge about, you know, our religion and our Christianity in general. But also have those open discussions like, are the movies bad? Let's talk about it. And then people actually get to know us more like that as well. Like, oh no, SDAs don't actually think. Well, most of them might not think movies are bad.
And the funny thing is, like, when I meet people as well, they say, you know, who are you? What do you do? And I mention, you know, church, and then Seventh-day Adventists, like, what? But if I said I was Mormon, Catholic, Baptist, AOG, any of those other ones, they'd be like, oh yeah, right, cool. I know what you're about. But when you say Seventh-day Adventists, like, they have no idea.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of tough growing up when I said, I go to a Seventh-day Adventist church, because not many people knew about it. So then in my head, I'm like, oh, what the heck? What? Is this a problem? Is there something wrong with this? Like, maybe I'm wrong, you know? Like, because it's not popular at all. Like, if it was so true, why are there so many more people that know about it, know about the church? Yeah, that was something a bit scary, but...
I've actually had a new member of the church ask me that question.
Yeah.
And they were like, I just joined the church, but like, is it the right choice? Because it's like, why is it so small?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not wrong. And I gave an answer like, you know, we base it off, you know, fully off the Bible. Basically, we trust the Bible as our number one source and that sort of thing. And then the other denominations are just variations of that.
When you think about it, we are still pretty young as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, 1800s, is it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can wrap it up there. I think it's a good place to close off the discussion. But I'm sure we'll probably see you around.
Definitely.
With future episodes and everything else we're doing with some skits, and hopefully we can get those in the works pretty soon. It's all in the planning stage at the moment, but that's all exciting. If you want to get in touch with us, everyone who's listening, contact mvcyouth@gmail.com, Instagram mvcyouth, and Facebook is, I believe, it's more of our youth.
Yes.
-MVY.
Yes, it is. And I learned that this morning as well.
Same. I think we were saying MVC Youth previously, but I think if you type it in, it will come up anyway, I hope. But yeah, you know all the options now. We'll probably link it in the description as well, so it's not a problem. Yeah, okay. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks. See ya. But like, I was just like looking at it and I was like, damn, I'm so jealous. But I know deep down, I shouldn't be jealous.
What does that tell us about their salary?
Hot topic.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, maybe just sip your drink there.